The smug laughter cut through the diner's lazy afternoon hum as Chad and his friends cornered the black woman in the wheelchair. "Look what we got here," Chad sneered, his voice dripping with condescending pity. "Affirmative action even gets you front row parking, huh?" They saw an easy target, a woman whose stoic posture and quiet dignity they mistook for weakness. They mocked her braided hair and dismissed her carbon fiber wheelchair as a prop for sympathy. But they had no idea the woman they were harassing, call sign Phoenix, had earned that name in the fiery skies over enemy territory. Before I tell you exactly what happened next, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Now, let's get into it. The burger joint was a haven, a slice of Americana nestled just a few miles from the airbase. The scent of grilled onions and worn leather filled the air, mingling with the low thrum of a classic rock tune from the jukebox on the far wall. Vintage aviation posters, faded by decades of afternoon sun, adorned the wood-paneled walls, depicting sleek jets against impossibly blue skies. It was in this pocket of nostalgic peace that Captain Amara Phoenix Jackson, age 30, found a rare moment of stillness. She sat by a large window, her back to a solid wall, a clear line of sight to both the entrance and the emergency exit, a habit forged not in restaurants, but at 40,000 feet. Her dark hair was intricately styled in long braids that cascaded over her shoulders, framing a face defined by high cheekbones and warm, intelligent brown eyes that held a warrior's calm. She wore a simple gray Henley and jeans, her athletic build still apparent despite the custom carbon fiber wheelchair that had become her reluctant partner. The chair wasn't a sign of infirmity. It was a piece of high-performance engineering, its sleek frame holding subtle scratches that spoke of a life lived, not surrendered. Amara was absorbed in a novel, the world of fiction a welcome escape from the memories that flickered at the edges of her vision. Here, she wasn't Phoenix, the decorated F-16 pilot with more classified combat missions than years in service. She was just Amara, a woman trying to enjoy a burger in peace. But peace was a luxury, and its lease was about to expire. At 3:15 p.m., the bell over the door chimed aggressively. Trouble swaggered in, cloaked in designer athletic wear and the suffocating aroma of expensive cologne. It came in the form of 4 young men from the local university. Chad, the group's self-appointed leader, with a trust fund smirk and the broad shoulders of a college athlete. Kyle, his lanky second-in-command, phone already in hand, perpetually hunting for content. Blake, whose cruel laughter seemed to be his primary mode of communication. And Jason, a quiet follower who enabled the cruelty of the others. Their loud, profane chatter sliced through the diner's comfortable atmosphere like a sonic boom. Families instinctively pulled their children closer. An elderly couple in a nearby booth suddenly found the pattern on their plates fascinating. The air grew thick with a tension that only Amara, trained to detect threats from miles away, seemed to ignore. Her stillness, her complete refusal to acknowledge their disruptive presence, was a challenge Chad couldn't resist. He saw her, and in his world of privilege and unearned dominance, a quiet black woman in a wheelchair was an anomaly to be corrected, a silence to be filled with his own noise. "This place is a real dive," Chad announced loudly to his friends, though his eyes were fixed on Amara. "Smells like regret and minimum wage." His friends brayed with laughter, the sound harsh and grating. Kyle panned his phone around the room, a mocking sneer on his face. "Broadcasting live from the land of broken dreams, guys. Like and subscribe." It was Blake who pointed, his gesture crude and obvious. "Yo, check out the wheels on that one. Guess she's here for the disability discount." The insult hung in the air, thick and foul. Amara turned a page, her expression unreadable. That deliberate indifference was gasoline on Chad's burning ego. This was going to be fun. Chad sauntered over to her table, his friends trailing behind him like hyenas sensing a kill. They formed a tight semicircle, trapping her between their smug bodies and the plate glass window. He leaned down, placing his palms flat on her table, invading her space with a proprietary air. "Hey, Queen," he began, his voice a low, mocking drawl. Didn't your mama teach you it's rude to ignore people when they're talking to you? Amara slowly placed a bookmark in her novel before closing it. She looked up, her gaze steady and unervingly direct. I believe you're talking to your friends, not to me. Her voice was calm, measured, carrying an authority that momentarily threw him off balance. But it was only for a second. His smirk returned, wider and meaner. Playing smart, huh? I like that. He gestured toward her wheelchair. Is this thing street legal? Or did you get it with diversity points? His friends howled, the sound amplified by the diner's sudden, horrified silence. Kyle had his phone up, recording every second, his face alight with the thrill of the confrontation. In a corner booth, Master Sergeant Marcus Gunny Cole, a retired Air Force crew chief in his late 50s, lowered his coffee cup. He'd noticed Amara the moment she'd rolled in. He'd recognized the focused way she surveyed the room, the military bearing that no civilian could fake. More than that, he'd recognized her wheelchair, a custom-built racing model that cost more than Chad's entire wardrobe. And he'd seen something else, the faint outline of a wing tattoo on her wrist. He'd been trying to place her, but now, watching these privileged punks harass her, his protective instincts, honed over 30 years of service, took over. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Chad taunted, leaning closer. Or are you just another angry black woman looking for a handout? Amara's hands tightened on the armrests of her chair, her knuckles turning white. I'm going to ask you to step away from my table. An order? Chad laughed, straightening up. You hear that, boys? She's giving me an order. In a flash of petulant rage, he grabbed the handles of her wheelchair. Let me give you a lesson in respect. With a violent shove, he sent the chair rolling backward. The impact was jarring. The chair slammed into the low window sill with a sickening crack. Her glass of water toppled, spilling ice and liquid across the table and into her lap. But that wasn't the worst of it. The force of the collision dislodged a small, black Pelican-style tactical case that had been secured beneath her seat. It hit the checkered linoleum floor with a sharp clatter and burst open. Its contents scattered across the floor like discarded jewels. The diner fell into a profound silence, broken only by the gasp of the elderly woman in the booth. There, gleaming under the fluorescent lights, were the symbols of a life of valor. A purple heart, its deep purple ribbon a stark contrast to the grimy floor, multiple air medals, and a distinguished flying cross. And among them, a small, engraved metal placard. From his booth, Gunny's eyes widened. He could read the text as if it were a foot high. Captain Amara Jackson, F-16, 56 Fighter Wing, call sign. Phoenix, 47 combat missions. His blood ran cold. Phoenix. He knew that name. Every airman did. Without a second thought, Gunny was on his feet, moving with a quiet urgency toward the exit as he pulled out his phone. He knew exactly who to call. The sight of the medals on the floor did nothing to deter Chad. It only fueled his ignorant cruelty. He mistook valor for vanity. Wow, look at all the toys, he sneered, nudging a medal with the toe of his expensive sneaker. You buy these online? Must be for a Halloween costume, right? Playing dress up as a soldier. Kyle's phone captured all, the glee on his face sickening. Hashtag stolen valor. He narrated for his online audience. This chick is totally faking it for clicks. Pathetic. The other customers watched, frozen in a state of collective shame and fear. They wanted to intervene, but the aggressive energy of the four young men held them captive. Amara simply stared at the medals, her face a mask of controlled emotion, the violation far deeper than a spilled drink. Meanwhile, outside, Gunny's call was answered on the second ring. Rostova. The voice was crisp, no nonsense. Colonel, this is Master Sergeant Cole. Gunny. Sir, ma'am. He fumbled, his adrenaline surging. I'm at the burger joint off the interstate. There's a situation. A pause. Explain, Gunny. It's one of ours, Colonel. Captain Jackson. Phoenix. She's being harassed by a group of college kids. Her medals are on the floor, ma'am. They're mocking her. The silence on the other end of the line was heavier than a fully loaded C-5 Galaxy. When Colonel Rostova spoke again, her voice had dropped several degrees, becoming as cold and sharp as ice. "Do not let them leave, Gunny. Do not let them touch her again. We are en route." "How many should I expect, Colonel?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. The answer was simple and terrifying. "All of us." The first sign of their arrival was subtle. The afternoon light filtering through the windows seemed to dim. One by one, headlights swept across the diner as a procession of black SUVs, pickup trucks, and sensible sedans filled the parking lot with unnerving speed and precision. They parked in a strategic formation, effectively blockading the entire building. Chad was the first to notice. Dude," he said, his bravado finally cracking. "What's going on?" Doors opened in unison. From the vehicles emerged over 30 individuals. Men and women, diverse in age and ethnicity, all dressed in casual civilian clothes. But there was nothing casual about their demeanor. They moved with the synchronized purpose of a unit that had trained, flown, and fought together. These were the warriors of the 56th Fighter Wing. The diner door swung open, and in walked Colonel Eva Valkyrie Rostova. She was a woman in her late 40s with sharp features, steel gray eyes, and a presence that instantly sucked all the air out of the room. Behind her filed the others, pilots with the relaxed confidence of apex predators, crew chiefs with hands that could fix a jet engine in the dark, and officers whose calm expressions belied the immense responsibility they carried. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. They flowed into the space, forming a silent, solid wall around Amara's table, their bodies creating an impenetrable fortress of military solidarity. Chad, Kyle, Blake, and Jason were trapped, their smirks melting into pale masks of fear. They looked like children who had just stumbled into a nest of eagles. Colonel Rostova's gaze swept over the scene. The spilled water, the scattered metals, the terrified faces of the students, before finally resting on Amara. Her stern expression softened instantly with concern and respect. "Captain Jackson," she said, her voice clear and resonant. "Are you harmed?" Amara looked up at her commanding officer, her posture instinctively straightening. "No, Colonel. Just a little mess." Rostova nodded, her gaze dropping to the medals on the floor. With the reverence of a priest handling sacred relics, she knelt down, her knees cracking softly in the silent diner. One by one, she picked up the medals, her touch gentle and deliberate. She rose to her full height, holding them in her cupped palm. "For those of you who don't know," she began, her voice ringing with authority, projecting to every corner of the room, "you are in the presence of an American hero." She looked directly at Chad and his friends, her steel gray eyes pinning them in place. Captain Amara Jackson, call sign Phoenix, flew 47 combat missions for the United States Air Force. 47 times, she flew into the most dangerous skies on Earth to protect people she would never meet. She held up the Purple Heart. She earned this 3 years ago over the mountains of Afghanistan. Her F-16 was hit by a surface-to-air missile. The explosion shattered her canopy and sent shrapnel tearing through her legs. The restaurant was utterly still. Even the kitchen staff had emerged, watching from the service window. She could have ejected over friendly territory, Rostova continued, her voice thick with emotion. No one would have blamed her. Instead, she stayed with her crippled aircraft for 17 more minutes, flying through a storm of enemy fire to protect a convoy of Marines pinned down below. Because of her, 37 Marines went home to their families. Chad was visibly trembling, his face ashen. The weight of his actions was crashing down on him. Where her jet finally gave out, she ejected deep behind enemy lines. Both of her legs were shattered, but she wasn't done fighting. The colonel's voice grew harder, each word a hammer blow of truth. For 6 hours, bleeding out in the dirt, she coordinated rescue efforts for other downed airmen and, with her service pistol, defended a local family who tried to help her from an enemy patrol. She held them off until rescue arrived. A woman in the diner began to sob quietly. She didn't just lose the ability to walk that day, Rostova said, her glare burning into the 4 students. She lost the sky. She lost the cockpit. She lost the one thing she loved more than life itself. She gave it all up for this country. For you. She then turned back to Amara. She has never asked for a parade, never asked for recognition. She volunteers at the VA, helping other wounded warriors find their way back. Finally, Rostova faced the students again. So, when you decided to mock her wheelchair, when you decided to use her skin color as an insult, you weren't just bullying a disabled woman. You were spitting on the very sacrifice that gave you the freedom to be so disgustingly ignorant. Chad finally broke. I'm sorry. He stammered, tears welling in his eyes. We didn't know. Amara wheeled herself forward slightly. Her voice, when she spoke, was not angry, but filled with a profound, weary strength. You didn't know, she stated, locking eyes with each of them. But the real question is, why did you need to? Why does my humanity require a service record for you to see it? My skin color and this chair should have been enough. The question hung in the air, unanswerable and devastating. After a long, crushing silence, Chad and his friends, under the unwavering watch of the squadron, emptied their wallets onto the counter to pay for every customer's meal. They offered stuttered, shame-faced apologies to Amara, who received them with a quiet, dignified nod. As they scurried out of the diner, the entire restaurant erupted in thunderous applause. This story is a powerful reminder that heroes don't always wear capes or uniforms in public. They are the quiet ones, the unassuming figures who move among us, carrying the invisible weight of their sacrifices with grace. True strength isn't found in loud boasts or aggressive dominance, but in the resilient spirit that endures, protects, and rises from the ashes, asking for nothing in return but the simple dignity every human being deserves. Have you ever misjudged someone based on their appearance or circumstances, only to learn their incredible story later? What would you have done if you were in that restaurant, watching the scene unfold before the squadron arrived? And do you think our society does enough to honor the quiet heroes who live in our own communities? Or do we too often wait for a dramatic reveal to offer our respect? Share your thoughts and comments. If this story reminded you that courage comes in many forms, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the hidden strength that surrounds us. Share this with someone who needs to remember that every person has a story worth knowing. We read every comment, and we value your perspective. Let's make this a space for respectful conversation. More stories about unsung heroes and incredible acts of valor are waiting for you on the screen. Watch those next, and we'll see you tomorrow with another story that will challenge the way you see the world.